Welcome back to Game Talk from the Bench. I'm your host, Drew Barreto, and today I'm here with my co-host, my uncle Andrew Barreto. And today we got a lot to cover. We got a lot of NFL news, some big injuries to the Raiders, to the Texans. The Texans did make a trade to replace their injury. The Browns, they decided their QB1. 49ers owner, he's in a lot of trouble. We'll talk about that. As well as the Chargers, their injury bugs for the offensive line continue. And good news for the Niners, their tight end might be able to play week one. And then we'll go to our new segment. It's called Drew's Deep Dive. The throwback segment. We'll talk about that, and then we'll do things a little bit differently today. We'll go into baseball right after that. We'll move into basketball. We'll talk about some trades, some signings of some veterans, and then we'll end off in Formula One. But to start us off, Las Vegas Raiders sixth overall pick last year, Ashton Jeanty. He got injured, and at first it was really scary. They said he couldn't put any weight on his leg. They thought it was his knee. Good news, it's only an ankle sprain. They say it's on the lower side. Yeah, no major knee damage. He's all right. The rookie had 1,300 scrimmage yards last year, 10 total touchdowns. Um, really, really huge. I know a lot of fantasy football people were stressed, right? We're getting close to the season, but they say he should be, his outlook for week one is, kind of going to lead up to week one. So he's going to be questionable. However, good thing that they drafted Mike Washington Jr. because from what we've seen in preseason, that guy can run and will be a great backup to GT. If he's got to start 2 weeks, I think the Raiders will be okay. But yeah, good. Fortunately for GT, he won't be out long term. It's just an ankle sprain, and I know the Raiders fans and team were very happy to hear that news.
Yeah, tape it up. I mean, get it out there. We know he's going to play a huge part in what the Raiders are going to do this year, and that would be just a gigantic issue if he's injured. But yeah, I do agree with you. I've only caught a little bits here and there of the preseason Raiders. A lot of times I'm watching the number. I think he's number 30, right? The backup running back you're talking about.
Yes, I believe so.
Um, yeah, and I'm always seeing the back of his jersey because he's running away from everybody. He's breaking long gains and it looks very impressive. So yeah, I mean it's good to have that kind of backup ready to go in case Jeanty needs to miss a little bit of time. But hopefully that's not the case. And what do we have, like one more preseason and a couple weeks before the home opener, not the home opener, but just the regular season starting. So week one starting. So yeah, hopefully they got some good doctors over there. So go ahead and ice it up, tape it up, whatever it takes, and get ready because a lot of us are ready for week one.
Yeah, staying with the Raiders real quick. I got to announce that next year the Raiders will be part of the new Nike rivalries jersey. So next year the Raiders will get a new jersey, and I can't wait to see that. But moving on with the Texans, a couple things happened. Second year receiver Jayden Higgins suffered a season-ending torn ACL I believe in joint practice drills. Higgins, big part of the team. He had 87 receptions for 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns in his final college season before entering the pros. Was They were looking for a big year out of him, but he's out for the year, and so the Texans, they go out and they got to replace him. So they went and acquired wide receiver Kayshon Boutte from the Patriots, and returned to England, received safety Jalen Reed and a 2028 seventh round pick. Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, unfortunate news for Jayden Higgins, right? They were expecting a lot from him to pair him up with Nico Collins, Tank Dell, who's also recovering from injury, and now he's out for the year. And hopefully, Kayshon Boutte, who played 14 games last year, started 10 of them, had 33 receptions, 551 yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. So hopefully he could be big for the Texans. I think this is a great trade for Houston. I think Kayshon Boutte is big. He had 9 receptions and 468 yards and 1 touchdown in the postseason, right as the Saints, well, not the Saints, as the Patriots went on to the Super Bowl last year. So, like I said, unfortunate for Jayden Higgins, but great move by the Texans to go out and quickly find his replacement.
Yeah, and that's kind of what teams that are in the hunt, teams who have Super Bowl aspirations, that's what they do is they make, something goes down, then they have to immediately fix it. And yeah, I think this weapon here is going to be good for C.J. Stroud. And yeah, right now it's just a bad time bad time for injuries. It's just like we keep saying, the season's still, hasn't even started, and everything's pretty young in the season for injuries to happen or people start to get hurt. Never a good thing, right? It's you want to go into the season as healthy as can be. But yeah, I like the trade, especially with the Texans trying to improve their offense. We already know about their defense, but they're trying to move even further with a somewhat revamped offense.
Yeah, speaking of injuries, brutal news for the Chargers. They just signed Tyler Biadasz to a 3-year, I believe, $30 million deal. And in a joint practice with the 49ers, he suffered damage to his ACL and he's out for the year. I mean, he started 17 games at center for the Commanders last year, playing well over 1,000 snaps while just conceding 2 sacks. We know the offensive line is huge for Justin Herbert. We know last year he lost both of his tackles, and they just continuously, year after year, just have injuries to the offensive line. And Biadasz, who they were hoping would be huge, is unfortunately won't even play a snap for them this year. So it's a big blow for Justin Herbert. Like I said, it was against joint practice with the Niners, and the Niners owner, Jed York, right?
Yeah, Jed York.
Yeah,
He's in the news these days, right?
yeah, he's gotten himself into some trouble. He was arrested over prostitution. He was in Ohio and then spent $140 on prostitution. I guess it was a total setup, and he got arrested. And a lot of funny memes came out of it. It was like Niner fans were like, he's spending money over that instead of buying us safeties and guards. It just really funny. But yeah, he's in a lot of trouble. We'll see what his consequences are. I haven't gotten much of an update since, other than the fact that he's now under arrest.
The update I saw was $160. So now, it was 140. I did read that, and now it's 160. So, I mean, we're San Francisco 49ers. They're in Santa Clara. Maybe the rates are higher. So he got a deal in Ohio, and he couldn't pass it up. But, there seemed to be a sense of urgency, too. I mean, he kept calling. He had a burner phone, trying to arrange this meeting. And unfortunate just for the 49ers and the matter that the season's right around the corner. You don't want any distractions. You want to go in as healthy as possible and get the season started. And apparently, yeah, the owner had other thoughts and was feeling a little lonely, apparently. I did see one thing that made me laugh where they're petitioning to change the name to the 69ers. So that one had me laughing. So yeah, right now he's heavy in the news, and who knows with these guys. First thing that came to my mind was Robert Kraft and the New England Patriots. Maybe they'll get together, exchange some.
Yeah, the owners meeting there, they'll dap each other up or something. Yeah, that was some. Yeah, that was some of the bad news for the Niners. Other bad news is, they had the Disney collab, the NFL and Disney, and they got Sneaky Pete, I think, from Toy Story was the Niners guy on the shirts. A lot of fans were upset about that. But the good news for the Niners is that George Kittle was activated off of the physically unable to perform list. We talked about it, I believe, last week. He is up in the air. He's going to start week 1. We talked about it last week. We said if he's not 100%, don't get him out there. He's coming off an Achilles injury. However, he's a big part of the Niners, right? 15 games last year, 71 receptions, about 900 yards, and 7 touchdowns before he suffered the injury. And so, yeah, just he's off the list, so that's good news for them. Like I said, I don't know if it outweighs the bad news. Christian McCaffrey also resumed practice, shows after missing time with muscle tightness. So I don't know if you're not a fan. I don't know where you stand. A lot of bad news, but a lot of good news as well. So we'll see how it is.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before with Joe that I don't know. Do you rush him back so quickly? I mean, you do have some suitable backups, right? Jake Tongas, I think his name is the backup there.
Yes.
I don't know if you need to rush him. It is week 1. You got a couple weeks before week 1. is there a need to throw? I know he's a big part. He's, the man over there in Santa Clara, and if he's, not 100%. I mean, I would go ahead and just they give him sit him down or in maybe give him a few plays here and there, but I wouldn't rush him back yet. You're going to need it's a long season, right? With all the additional games they play, and they're hoping they make the playoffs, so they're going to need him to last.
Yeah, like I said, I talked about it last week with Joe. You want him for the later part of the season, right? When you're fighting for the playoffs, when you're in the playoffs. So you just want to keep him healthy. But moving on to Cleveland, where we had a QB battle between Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and they came out with it recently that Deshaun Watson will be the Week 1 starter. So obviously, I've seen a lot of clips. Shedeur Sanders throwing some ducks out there and whatnot. But we saw it last year. He played better than Dylan Gabriel in the regular season, right? Deshaun Watson didn't play at all last year. However, in 2024, he played 7 games. He had 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had 33 sacks taken, 31 carries, 148 rushing yards. So it wasn't bad in the 5 games he played, or the 7 games he played in 2024. I mean, it wasn't good, but he wasn't terrible. But the veteran gets none. Like I said, I don't know. It feels like forever ago they traded for him and gave him that huge contract. So they're just praying he's got a good year, right? We know they dealt Myles Garrett, and they're not going to be, I would say, a playoff contending team. However, they're just trying to get the most from their quarterback, and they believe Deshaun Watson's the guy. And so, obviously, they didn't see enough from Shedeur. They didn't see enough from Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel could potentially not even be on the roster. I believe I've seen that's one thing that could be like a surprising cut. But Deshaun Watson will be the Week 1 starter. Probably no one is going to draft him, but if there's anyone on the offense, I know Quinshon Judkins could be a name guys grab in fantasy football. Just know Deshaun Watson will be throwing the ball.
Yeah, I know they're hoping that they gave him 5 years, $230 million fully guaranteed in 2022, and of course they have not seen any return on that investment there. And yes, he's been plagued with injuries, and he's had all the off-field accusations, and he's been probably in the courtroom more than he's been on the actual playing field. But I just think the Browns, I mean, I would expect them not to make the right move, and they did here. I would think he's on a short leash to as a starting quarterback, and if you come off to a slow start, then we'll see Shedeur Sanders sooner than later. I mean, he's their fan base after losing Myles Garrett and constantly losing games, players, you name it. I mean, they need something, something to hold their head up high about, and unless Deshaun Watson does this full overhaul, and that's what you pretty much have to do is somehow earn their trust. I mean, they're given, there's backlash about him being the starter already, and I mean, he would have to just listen to all that, and he would have to earn the trust back from the Browns. I mean, I know he hasn't really done much since he's been with them, but that ownership there, they must be banking that they're going to get the Houston Texans Deshaun Watson of 2018 and 19 or 2020, and that's a long time ago. So I mean, a lot has happened since.
Yeah.
There's
So
been
yeah,
several,
like you said, they're hoping
for that. So it's going to be tough, and I think Deshaun, not Deshaun, but Shedeur comes in sooner than later.
Yeah, like you said, they're hoping for the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, the one that broke the sack, scored like basically the game-winning pass in that playoff game against the Bills. But yeah, so I agree, full-heartedly agree. I think they're gonna have him on a short leash, right? They're gonna say, "Hey, you're the veteran. You've been in the league longest. You got to show us that you're worth putting out every game this year. If not, we got a couple young guys that got nothing to lose, and all they got to do is just prove us, a little something, and we'll play them." So yeah, we'll just have to see how he performs. Obviously, like I said, once when he was with that Texans team, he was something else. But just hasn't been the same. Dealt with injuries, dealt with the issues, and yeah, we'll see how that is. Before we move on, almost forgot Nick Chubb after 8 seasons in the NFL. I don't have his stats. I forgot to bring him up, but he's retiring. The longtime Brown. I know he was a Texan as I believe last year, but I know he had dealt with a couple nasty knee injuries, and unfortunately after 8 seasons he's calling it quits, and so it's a sad sight to see because I know when you think of a power back, Nick Chubb was the guy you thought of. So it's unfortunate to see him go after 8 years. I don't know if you pulled something up right now or.
I'm trying to. My computer's really slow, but I do remember Nick Chubb. Yeah, he's a bruiser. You know, he was a hard nosed running back, I want to say even that my son may have had him on his fantasy team, and he put up points for him. So, him and I'm drawing a blank on that other. They had another. He was the bruiser, and then
Kareem
they
Hunt?
had the Kareem Hunt. They had that one year that maybe it was 1 year that they had the lightning and thunder kind of duo in the backfield there. And I'm looking at his stats. I mean, he's got for 2019, 2020, 21, 22, he's over 1,000 yards, 1,525 in 2022, 12 touchdowns. He scored 54 total touchdowns his career. Not too shabby. I mean, he's got over 7,000 yards rushing in his career, and injuries will get you. It looks like he had last year in 2025, he had 15 games played, 506 yards, only 122 carries, and that's probably spelled, the end there, that the end was near. And but yeah, sorry, sad to hear that he's calling the quits, but I mean that's just sports, right? They end up hanging it up after a while.
Yeah, so unfortunate to see him go. He was a fun, like I said, bruiser to watch in that backfield. But moving on to our new segment, our throwback segment, Drew's Deep Dive. Now, Andrew, in
Uh-oh.
2011, a baseball team hit 3 grand slams in a game. Any guesses?
And slams in a game.
No, you're not the biggest baseball guy, but 2011, who were some of the
You said
bigger
2011. I
teams?
think I was still paying attention in 2011. Um, I don't know. Oh, I mean, I typed it in real quick. I'm cheating.
That's
Yankees.
right. The Yankees. So in a game where they went down quick, 7-1 after 3 innings, fans were walking out of the ballpark, and
Yeah.
when the Bronx Bombers launched the greatest bases-loaded barrage, 3 players, Robinson Cano, um, hold on, Robinson Cano, Russell Martin, and Curtis Granderson all hit a grand slam, and they ended up winning the game 22-9 at Yankee Stadium. They had 21 total hits. And Russell Martin was 5 for 5 with 2 home runs, one of which was a grand slam and 6 RBIs. It was the bottom of the fifth when Rich Harden, the pitcher of then the Oakland A's, pitched to Robinson Cano, cut the A's lead from 7-2 to 7-6. Then Fantino de los Santos pitched to Russell Martin. He hit his grand slam, which then gave the Yankees the lead 10-7. And then Bruce Billings, that sounds like a familiar name, pitch to Curtis Granderson, and that capped off the blowout to make it 21-9. It was, like I said, fans were leaving early, and that they missed a feat that hadn't happened in nearly 200,000 MLB regular season games up to that point. Like I said, Russell Martin was 5 for 5 with 2 home runs. Cano and Granderson each added 5 RBIs to complete the historical trifecta.
I'm looking at the box score here, and I do remember Rich Harden, because Rich Harden was supposed to be one of those young pitchers who, in addition to, and I don't know if they were there at the same time during this game, probably not, but because the A's used to have their trio of Barry Zito, Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, and then Rich Harden was supposed to be like an extension to that. And it looks like he pitched 4 innings, 6 earned runs. I do remember Rich Harden saying like, "Hey, maybe we'll keep this going," because the A's had those dominant pitchers, and they were always getting good prospects from their minor league system. But apparently that didn't work out. I'm looking at their starting lineup too 59 and 71. Coco Crisp, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Matsui's on there. Other than that, I don't recognize anybody. Eric Sogar, I remember him. I don't know if you remember him. He wore the goggles. He was a
No.
shortstop. Uh, uh, he was more like a good story. Like you wouldn't think he would make the team or any team for that matter, but he was just kind of one of those utility guys. Just put him second, shortstop, third, whatever. But yeah, 22-9. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, some other fun facts. Jorge Posada played second base in the ninth inning. And it was pretty interesting. The Yankees went scoreless 4 out of the 8 innings that they batted in, yet they still put up 22 runs. But yeah, so that was just on this day in history back in 2011, August 25th. Because we recorded on Tuesday.
Ah,
They're the one and only team to hit 3 grand slams in a single game.
ridiculous. Ridiculous. It
So
had to be against the A's too.
yeah, and it was funny enough, it was under miserable conditions. It was an 89-minute rain delay, a soggy field, and like I said, an early meltdown by starter Phil Hughes that left New York trailing 7-1 after 3 innings. But that that's our deep dive for today. Sticking with baseball though, we'll talk baseball. I'll talk baseball real quick, and then we'll move to basketball. Weekly standings updates. The Rays have a 3.5 lead over the Yankees. They're 78 and 53. Red Sox are 72 and 59. They are coming up on the Yankees. They have been red hot. White Sox lead the AL Central by 2.5 games. They're 68 and 63. The Rangers are half a game above the Astros. Astros just fired their general manager, so things are going the wrong way from them. But the Rangers, like I said, a half game lead over the Astros in the AL West. In the National League, the Braves are 76 and 55, and the Phillies only 3.5 games behind them. Brewers have the best record in baseball. They're 81 and 50. They have a 5.5 game lead over the Cubs. And the Dodgers, who are 80 and 51, have a 9.5 lead over the Padres in the NL West. Speaking with the Dodgers, Tyler Glasnow was activated from the 60-day IL on Tuesday. He'll be pitching for the first time since May 6th, when lower back spasms limited him to just 1 inning. And corresponding move, the club option right-handed pitcher Paul Gervasi or Gervais. So that was that for the Dodgers. More news. I talked about Ketel Marte last week. He went on the restricted list for unknown reasons, where he was found spotted gambling at a casino during the D-backs game amid his off-field drama. So that was not a good look on him. Yankees dealing with more injuries to the starting rotation as Ryan Weathers lands on the IL. Padres Casey Mize exits with ankle sprain. Shohei Ohtani could pitch as soon as next week. He's been out with pitching with the knee issues. He's still been hitting and things like that, but he hasn't been pitching. Shane Bieber lands on IL, as well as Blue Jays cling to playoff hopes and try to make it in. And as well, finally, Dodgers All-Star Andy Paz, he breaks his hand after being hit by a pitch. He's going to be out at least 3 to 4 weeks. They are hoping he comes back at the end of September and for their playoff run. But that is all for baseball. Moving on to basketball, where we have more news than normal. We have a 5-team trade between the Cavaliers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Hornets, and the Wizards. So we'll get right into it. Peyton Watson and Cam Whitmore are heading to Cleveland, while Max Strus from the Cavs is heading to LA. He's going to the Clippers. Dennis Schroeder, for like the 25th time, is getting traded. He's going to the Hornets with cash considerations as well. The Nuggets receive Julian Reese, a 2031 first-round pick, a 2032 second-round pick, and the Wizards receive Trey Mann from Charlotte, a 2027 second-round pick from the Clippers, and cash considerations. Really crazy.
I saw the same thing you saw with Dennis Schroeder. Like, I'm looking at everybody's name and I'm like, Schroeder again got traded. He must, I can't bring the stats up, but he must have played for every single team in the NBA, right? I mean, he has to by now.
It's got to be at least half. 30 teams. He's got to play.
He's still getting jobs. He's still, a serviceable guard there that people want on their team for his veteran leadership. he could put points up in a hurry. I mean, the Warriors had him for a cup of coffee, and uh, he's still getting traded, and people want him on the team. So I mean, it looks like the main guy here was Payne Watson from the Nuggets, right? He's that young guy. He had his best career with the Nuggets last year and became a hot commodity. And apparently, it was more about the luxury tax, I believe, here for the Nuggets, and they had to unfortunately get rid of their young talent there. But Cavaliers, I know we'll talk about it, but the East. I know we normally say the East is on the downside of competing against the West, but I like what the Cavaliers pick up there. I like the Knicks are obviously the champions. You got some Miami Heat. What they're doing. You got Detroit Pistons. Celtics are the Celtics. I know they lost Jaylen Brown, but just some good comment. Don't forget about LeBron, right? The Sixers.
Yeah.
So the East are coming through, and I know I didn't name the other people who are making big moves, but the other teams making big moves. But I like the East. They're going to have some games to watch that are going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, so like you said, Watson's the biggest name in the trade. He was a late first round pick in the 2022 draft. He broke out this past year, averaging 14.5 points, about 5 rebounds in the 54 games he played. He completed his original 4-year rookie contract. Nuggets offered an extension, but like you said, dealing with the money issues, they couldn't get something done. Cavs, I believe, signed him to an extension. Don't have the numbers on that, but Max Strus, the hot hand from the Heat originally, went to Cleveland. Wasn't, I would say, the same guy. He was dealing with the Jones fracture in his foot. Um, didn't really play much. He appeared in 12 games and averaged 11.2 points per game. I know Trey Mann was he was the number 18th overall pick in the 2021 draft. Spent the past 3 seasons with Charlotte. He was a back point guard, but he appeared in 53 games, averaged 5.5 points. Um, and his best season with the Hornets was about 2 years ago. He averaged 14.1 points per game. And then right here, Schroeder, he joins his 12th NBA team since being selected 17th overall in 2013. So the 32-year-old guard averaged about 11 points and 5 assists over 70 games with Sacramento and Cleveland last season. And then Denver, they just kind of get they get a first-round pick and some leftovers. But I think it's a great trade for Cleveland. They get younger. They get a guy that's got a lot of potential. Like I said, he was a late first-round pick, but he showed some spark last year. Right, getting limited play with, I believe due to injuries to Aaron Gordon, he got himself some more playing time. But he's making a name for himself, and sticking with Cleveland, we'll go to the next guy. I forgot to bring him up to you, but James Harden, he signed a 3-year deal to return to Cleveland, the 2018 MVP. Like I said, he returns to a 3-year, $97 million deal. Big money for James Harden, who, to be quite honest, I don't like it. I don't like it. I know, they thought, he could be a bigger impact than Darius Garland. I know Darius Garland was dealing with injuries last season. However, watching James Harden in those playoffs, it hurt to watch because, growing up, I watched that man on the Rockets, put up 50, battle against that 2017 Warriors team. And I mean, the dude could single-handedly take on teams. And I know he's aged and he's not the same guy, but watching him just play, like I said, he looked like he was struggling out there. And giving him 3 years, 97 million, that's a lot of money for an aging guard that just, his best thing was his sidestep, his little quick acceleration. He doesn't have that anymore, and to give him about 30 million a year, it's not something like I'm not a GM, not a general manager. Maybe one day I will, but to me, just not a fan of the move.
Yeah, and I think it was just a matter of, hey, we want to keep him, bring him back. Let's sign. I don't know all the details either, but or how much was guaranteed, but I could see them trying to, give it another year at least, maybe 2, to see how this goes with, the current roster they have. Maybe adding a younger player like Watson, gets them a little further down in the playoff further higher up to this playoff seeding. But yeah, it's becoming a reality where all these top notch, the Kevin Durant's, the Steph Curry's, the James Harden, still going to get these big contracts when the time comes. But it's like, yeah, we're used to seeing them just take over a game and just like, have coaches call timeout to chew their team out to, hey, guard that man hard in that beard, feared the beard, right? And that's just not the case these days. But I still think he's kind of like Dennis Schroeder, still getting work. James Harden's going to definitely he's in a different bracket there. He's going to get work because, there could be a night there where he's going to be unstoppable again. Once you're a shooter, you're always a shooter, and I think so. Is it worth the money? That's debatable. I just, like I said, I think they give it a go, see how it works out, and see how far they get.
Yeah, like you said, they're just hoping it works out. I just, for me, like, you had the younger Darius Garland. I don't think he would have been as expensive, and could have shown. I know they were hoping for more potential from him, but you still could have got it from him. I don't know. But going to the Nuggets, we know they traded Peyton Watson, right? And I said they didn't really get much. They got a first-round pick and some leftovers. However, and the fact that I'm reading this is actually crazy. I didn't know how long he's actually been in the league. I didn't even know how old he was. DeMar DeRozan is a 17-year veteran, which is crazy. The 37-year-old guard. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that he's only a year younger than Steph. But the 37-year-old guard averaged 18.4 points over 77 games last season. He's 16th all time for points in history with 26,711. But he signed a 1-year, about $4 million deal with the Nuggets. So good for DeMar. Gives him a chance at potentially a ring. We'll see how the Nuggets are this season, but I was really hoping the Warriors would get him. But I'm actually kind of glad. I didn't realize he was 37. That's like I said, it's kind of crazy. He's still doing it though, right? Yeah, like I said, last season he was averaging 18 points. He still got it. He's not no superstar. He's a 6-time All-Star, but
he's in that same draft of Curry. So 2009.
Really?
Yeah, 2009. He was round 1, pick number 9.
Oh wow, he's only 2 off Steph.
Yeah, so those two guys that draft year, they still got some guys still kicking it. He was 18.4 with the Kings last year. I mean, if you look at his stats, it's just amazing. I mean, I don't know why he's not talked about more, but 22 that year, the previous year before that, 24, 24.5, 27.9. I mean, he's just putting up these huge numbers. He was with more recently the Kings, Chicago, San Antonio, and then a majority of his careers with the Toronto Raptors when he got drafted from 2009 all the way to 2018. So yeah, he wasn't a part of that championship team. I think they made some trades to get some. I don't recall the trade assets or what it may be, but yeah, no, he's really good player and another guy who's look, that money's out there. They're paying him. He's signing this deal and it's a small deal the years anyways and. We'll see how it works out for the Nuggets. They're taking the savvy veteran over the younger, potentially better Peyton Watson.
Yeah, they're just like you said. The second apron. It's a real thing. We've seen it a little bit affect the Thunder. It's big, and so they're trying to save money. Speaking of smaller deals, the next guy, Klay Thompson, former Dallas Maverick, he agreed with a buyout. And he signed a 2-year, $11.5 million deal. Well, he'll be joining Giannis and former teammate Andrew Wiggins for a chance to win ring number 5. Thompson averaged 36-year-old, entering his 14th season. What was I at? Oh, he averaged about 12 points, 2.1 rebounds for the Mavericks, 4th all time for 3-pointers made, and he chose the Heat over the Warriors because obviously he felt a better chance of winning. I don't agree. Giannis is on the team. I said the squad isn't anything crazy like they're going to be title favorites, but they definitely have a better shot than winning with the Dubs. And, Clay, obviously he said it himself. He's not the same guy that he was before the ACL tear, before the Achilles tear, but he could still get hot. Now, he's struggled I feel like ever since he left the Warriors this past, year or two with the Mavericks, he doesn't have the consistency that he used to, but still a great, 3-and-D guy that would be honestly a perfect fit with Andrew Wiggins and Giannis.
Yeah, this is gonna. I think this is just great for Clay. I mean, he's again another older guy there whose career is one of these days we're gonna look up and he's not gonna be on a team anymore. And it's gonna be that's unfortunate. Him being a 4-time champ and just a knockdown shooter there. I just think him teaming up, getting back with Andrew Wiggins. I think he's going to have a great year, especially when you have Giannis and Bam Adebayo and who else is on that Miami Heat team. But Tim Hardaway Jr., Davion Mitchell. It's a different system, it's a different these guys are going to be, I want to say they're going to be looking for Clay to just be right in the corner wide open, while they're double teaming Giannis and Bam. So I like the situation with him, and the coach is he's already most likely a Hall of Fame coach, Spoelstra. So I think he's going to have a comeback type year, and who knows, that comeback player of the year or something. I don't know, whatever they have for somebody who's going to have a kind of season I think he's going to have. It's going to be something good to watch with the Miami Heat.
Yeah, Miami Heat, they're a very intriguing team. They obviously have Giannis. They traded a lot away to get Giannis. They had Bam, who put up 82 somehow, well, or 84 against the Wizards. So I don't know if that really counts. But
That's
yeah,
not
they're an intriguing team. Wiggins, he's a champion. They just added Clay, he's the 4-time champion. Davion Mitchell, young guard. Yeah, they're good. They're just a really interesting team. They're in the East, so good shot of them making the playoffs. So we'll just see. Just have to see how far they go. But that is all for NBA. To end us off, we go to Formula One. It was race week. I didn't watch it. There was a sprint as well. Very busy weekend for myself. I believe the sprints, I want to say George Russell, Lando Norris won. I can't quite remember. But for the race, Lando Norris started on pole position and ended up winning from pole position. He wins back-to-back races. Kim Antonelli started P3, but got George Russell got team orders from Mercedes. He swapped. Kimi ended up P2. Russell got P3. Hamilton wasn't too far from Russell, however, couldn't catch up. Was slowed down by his own teammate Charles Leclerc. A little bit of frustration from Hamilton as he felt he could have gotten to the podium, but Ferrari are doing Ferrari things, messing up their strategy. And Antonelli extends his lead on Hamilton and Russell, who are both tied for second. I believe he's at a 57-point lead in the championship race. But Lando Norris says car feels good. The McLaren's got a lot of potential. He's won back-to-back races. He could try to pull off his best Max Verstappen impression of last year and try to make the comeback. Speaking of Max Verstappen, unfortunately, in the final race in the Netherlands at the Dutch Grand Prix, he went out on the first lap. He spun out, crashed. His race was over with. Sad for him. It was his home race. But on September 16th in Silverstone for Disney, he's going to race 100 people in go-karts and see if he can win. So that'll be pretty fun and interesting. But I believe it is not race week this week. We have a week break, and then we'll be in Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. So we'll see how that is. That is Kimi Antonelli's home race. It is believed he'll be starting at the back of the grid due to his engine being changed, but we'll have to wait and see. However, that is all for today. Thank you all for tuning in. I'd like to thank my co-host, my uncle, for joining me today. Let me know what you guys think about the new throwback segment. What should we do more of? What should we tweak? What should we talk about? Episodes every Wednesday. Post on Instagram and TikTok. Episodes out on YouTube and Spotify. One last time, thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, stay ready.